NFL week number 4 is officially in the books. Let's talk about some of the top takeaways. Plus, we're going to be joined by a Pro Football Hall of Famer. The great Emmitt Smith is joining us this morning. It's the Jake Asman Football Show, and it starts right now.
Oh, yeah. It's time for the Jake Asman Football Show. Brought to you by BetUS. Expert betting odds and fantasy stats. So let's get into some NFL football. Brought to you by our friends at BetUS. So get your questions ready. Here's your host, Jake Asman.
Here we go. Hope you all had a great weekend. Hope everyone enjoyed the Monday Night Football doubleheader. Maybe not the greatest games, but hey, football is football. As we start to look ahead to the upcoming NFL slate, reminder, with BetUS, you could bet on any of the games, future bets, player props, you name it, they have it. Make sure you use code YouTube150 to sign up and take advantage of their 150% bonus. Joining us right now is someone I've had the honor and privilege of having on the show in the past, whether it be on radio or here on YouTube. He is an absolute legend, the NFL's all-time leading rusher, Pro Football Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith joins us here on a Tuesday, October 1st. Emmitt, good morning, and thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you, Jake. How you doing, man?
I'm hanging in. You know, you and I were catching up a little bit off air. I'm a disgruntled Jets fan. You know, the season so far has been a bit of a roller coaster, which for your team as a Cowboys guy, of course, you know that well. So I kind of just want to start with some of the parity in the league, Emmitt. A lot of teams 2-2, a lot of teams either 3-1 or 1-3. It kind of feels like all these teams are bunched up the first 4 games into the season.
Yeah, I think these teams are actually trying to find their footing. Only played 3 preseason games, I believe, this year. And so not having that 4th one in or that 5th preseason game in it has been a little harder to work certain things out and to get into the flow. However, nonetheless, these are professional athletes, right? And they are professional because of the word professional and the way that they're supposed to be playing week in and week out. But it still takes some time to get into a groove. And this first month of football has been somewhat, as you call it, parity. And so, but they're getting in a groove, and things are starting to shape up in this next month.
Emmitt, how much of the parity we see early on this season might have something to do with the fact that a lot of teams just don't play their guys in the preseason anymore? Like I could tell you watching some of the games around the league, you see quarterback receivers maybe not on the same page, offensive line struggling at times to pick up, blitz pickups and stunts and different things you see. How much of that is just maybe the lack of playing time these guys don't get in the preseason?
I think it could be a combination of both. Lack of playing time in the preseason, lack of maybe actually spending time in your playbook. I mean, I don't know how they study these days, how they even watch tape these days. I don't know if they watch tape together like we used to, or they watch it tape individually at home or on some device. And so for me, I'm old school. I like to bring everybody, and I believe they still do this. I just believe they have to do it. If they're not doing it, then there's a reason why there's so much missed assignments and so forth. Because when you're sitting in a room with the all O-line and the running backs, and we're talking about blitz pickup and everything else, and I understand what my linemen are supposed to do, but my linemen also understand what my responsibilities are. And you're able to just talk about certain things amongst the group itself. Like if I see a guy and I tell a lineman and I know that we got Von Miller on the left side or some bad defensive end, TJ Watt rushing, I'm gonna tell my left tackle or my right tackle, hey guys, set inside, allow him to come outside. I'm releasing outside. So if he comes outside, give me a chance to get a bone on him so you can get your hands on him. If I'm releasing inside, I'm gonna say set outside, let him come inside so I can give him a little bit on my way out. So those are some of the things that help linemen become better, help backs do a better job, and help the whole offense become better.
We're talking with Emmitt Smith here, Pro Football Hall of Famer, on the Jake Asman Football Show as we break down all things NFL. Emmitt, we got to get into your team. They get the mini bye after a win over the New York Giants last week. I mean, I know it's early, but what are some of the things that have stood out about this version of the Dallas Cowboys?
Nothing at all. I mean, you said the Giants, awful offense. Maybe not as good on the defensive side of the ball. You talk about Cleveland, awful offense in week 1. pretty good on the defensive side of the ball. So somewhat of an impressive win on the surface. But when you peel back the onion, with the awful offense that Cleveland had, they didn't really get first down. So our offense had plenty opportunities to make plays against that defense, and especially in the first half. Second half, we kind of sputtered a little bit. They made a few adjustments over there on the defensive side of the ball. They couldn't still do anything on the offensive side of the ball, but we played two teams that couldn't really produce no more than 15 points, probably 20 points amongst themselves when you think about it. But then when you play the New Orleans Saints and they got an offense, they got some skilled players. You saw what happened. And so I'm a little concerned about our team. And now that we have DeMarcus Lawrence hurt, we also have Parsons hurt on the defensive side of the ball. I'm a little concerned for our Cowboys. And we're not clicking on all cylinders offensively. So we have some work. You call it a mini bye. I think we need to be ironing out some things and gelling out some things during this mini bye, if you will.
How much of that is on the head coach? How much of that is on the coaching staff? What's your level of confidence in them being able to revert back to the team they were last year as a 12-win team?
A couple of things. Yeah, they won't be able to revert back to the team that they were last year because they don't have the same personnel that they had last year. Let's be honest. But a lot of it definitely falls on the quality of players that you actually have playing in certain positions. Coach's job is to also get them ready so they can eliminate the mistakes and do what they've been coached to do. If it's gap fitting, then it's gap fitting, and you have to do your gap. You have to be disciplined enough as a player to do what you've been coached to do. When you watch Alvin Kamara almost go for 200 yards against us, there was no gap fitting. Everybody was just pursuing and over pursuing, and everything else in the back like that took fully advantage of every mistake that was made in the run game. And so I know Zimmer, he's all about discipline, and you have to be a disciplined front seven or front eight, however you want to call it. And offensively, we can't be getting Dak smashed, and you got to be able to run the ball. So somewhere along the line, that defensive front and that offensive line got to be tougher. And the only way you do that is through inside run drills and everything else, and putting them pads on and working some things out.
You know, it's interesting because you look at the next three games now for the Cowboys. You play the Steelers on Sunday night. Then you play a really good Lions team. After that, you play at the San Francisco 49ers. Kind of feels like we're reaching a part of the schedule for Dallas where this is like the litmus test. Like if you fancy yourself as a legit team, you got to find a way to win some of these games against playoff contenders.
No doubt. This is really the litmus test. I mean, this stretch of games that you just described, every last one of those football teams are extremely physical. And if you thought the Saints was physical, wait till you see the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wait till you go against the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell got that Lions team playing. And then you got the physicality of San Francisco. So you about to play a stretch of New Orleans Saints coming at you for the next 3 weeks.
No doubt. From your perspective as a former player, of course, obviously one of the greats of all time, when you know you're going into that physical style game, right? Pittsburgh coming up. What's the mentality from a player's standpoint? Like, did you look forward to those games where you knew, hey, I might take a beating today because of the team we're playing against?
Well, I know for a fact I'm gonna take a beating for the next 3 weeks because it's gonna be a physical ball game. And so I got to be mentally ready, physically ready, and emotionally ready to go and handle that load for the next 3 weeks. That's what your off-season training is. Trust me, the schedule came out a long time ago. Your off-season training itself should have been in preparation for this type of schedule. And as a former player, I did not have a personal trainer. My personal trainer was everyone that was in the weight room right now, the coaching staff. And so I was there doing what I needed to do. Then I went and did extra work on my own, extra conditioning work. There was no need for me going to lift any more weights. I lifted all the weights I needed with the Dallas Cowboys, but extra training, extra little massages and everything else to get my body physically ready and give myself a chance to compete at the highest level for a long period of time. And that's what some players do. Some players go off and train in Miami. They don't train with the team. So a lot of that camaraderie that we used to have, I'm not seeing it all the time, and I'm not seeing it in places that you normally would see it in.
When it comes to the head coach of the Cowboys, so much is always made about Mike McCarthy and his job status, and he doesn't have a contract, of course, as you know, beyond this year. Do you think it's maybe a mistake for him to be a quote unquote lame duck coach without a contract, or does it really not matter because at the end of the day, this team doesn't win? It kind of feels like change at some point is going to happen there. How do you view just the
He
pressure
is
on
no
him?
different. He's no different than a player in his last year of his contract
Hmm.
and don't have a contract extension. And so at the end of the day, he's a professional head coach. He knows what he has to do. He knows what's at stake. If he ain't doing nothing but auditioning for another job, he knows what's at stake. And so, and being under that kind of pressure does not change how you play, does not change how you coach, because every player out there is auditioning for some other team. Because at some point you can get traded, at some point you can get released, at some point uh, you may become a free agent, and so you have to be at your very best no matter what the situation is. And I think Mike McCarthy understands that.
We're talking with Emmitt Smith, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Emmitt, you're here on behalf of Tablo TV. I was
Yeah.
looking into this. This is pretty cool, especially for, my quote unquote generation. We're a generation of streamers and using the smart TVs. Can you tell the Jake Asman Football Show audience about Tablo TV?
Well, Tablo TV is a new way to watch and record TV without subscription fees. And so Tablo gives you access to around 100 plus channels, depending on where you live and all those kind of things. And you can broadcast and stream over, obviously, if you have a smart television, and you can stream over the air channel via the antenna plus 70 more streaming channels, news shows, and other things. And if you're a sports fan, you can definitely get some of your sports right there on Tablo TV as well. If you need more information, go to tablotv.com.
Check it out. It is in the description. All right, a couple quick hitters for you before we run here. Your record of being the all-time leading rusher. Have you thought about it potentially lasting till the test of time? Because I've thought a lot about this with the way the game is, Emmitt. I just don't know if anyone's ever going to be ever to have the opportunity to break your record.
Well, you never know. You never know. I know Derrick Henry is quickly rising right to the number of 10,000 yards. He's the only active player right now that would probably reach 10,000 yards come this weekend. And I'm so proud that he is in the 10,000 yard club, because at the end of the day, he's a state of Florida kid. He's
That's
a
right.
kid that broke my state of Florida rushing record too. I mean, and so on. So you never know who that person might be, but the way the schemes are these days, he's in the right offense, because I know John Harbaugh is going to run that rock, and he's going to give him a chance. And with Lamar Jackson and that spread offense, secondary guys don't want to see D. Henry coming downhill. As you saw the Buffalo player come in, try to make a form tackle, the right predicament, the right technique. But Derrick Henry thighs caught him in the head and gave him a concussion. All because Derrick Henry is such a big guy. So at the end of the day, I would never say never. But I do know one thing. He has 8,000 more yards to go to get up to dog 1855. But I'm so proud of the simple fact that he is entering into territory where only 32 players, I believe, has entered.
Who are some of the running backs in today's game, besides, of course, Derrick Henry, that you personally enjoy watching? You love their style. You love their personality. Who are some of the guys that stand out to you?
I still love watching Alvin Kamara. I love watching. I can't wait to see Christian McCaffrey get back on the football field.
Yep.
And there's some new cats I don't even know all the backs, because I don't watch all the games like that. I specifically watch who the Cowboys are playing, and every now and then I catch someone else. But Saquon Barkley has had a great season thus far. I knew that was going to happen with Jalen Hurts back at the quarterback position, and the way that the offense with AJ Brown and those guys come back, that offense is going to be very, very dynamic, and it's going to be cool to watch Saquon go out there. He can actually go for 2,000 in that offense.
Which team did you dislike the most during your playing career in the NFC East?
Out of who?
Any team in the division?
Any team in the division? Our rivalry was the Commanders. I'm gonna say the Commanders today because they were the Skins back in my day.
Yep.
But the team that was our rivalry. but the team that gave us the fans that you dislike the most, obviously that's that team out of Philadelphia. The city of brotherly love that had no love for no Cowboys. That's for sure.
Nope. And I don't know if that's changing anytime soon.
I don't think it will. I don't think it's gonna change at all. They have no love for no NFL
No,
football team.
they don't
But
like their own team.
some of them don't even like their own team.
He's Emmitt Smith, one of the greats of all time, Pro Football Hall of Famer, here on behalf of Tablo TV. Emmitt, always great to catch up. Really appreciate your time as always. Thanks for stopping by, and good luck to your Cowboys. Good luck with everything going on in your career.
Thank you, bro.
He's Emmitt Smith. My name is Jake Asman. This has been the Jake Asman Football Show. Once again, thanks to Emmitt and the team at Tablo for making this happen. If you missed any of the show with Emmitt, make sure you guys rewind. Of course, we're presented by BetUS. Take advantage of their promo code YouTube150 and benefit from a 150% sign-up bonus. It's not just football, by the way. We are a football show, but we got the baseball playoffs now starting later today. You obviously have basketball and hockey on the horizon, so this is the sports book for you. Check it out, BetUS, and use that promo code YouTube150. Some takeaways from week 4 on the season before we wrap up the Jake Asman Football Show. And for those seeking the show on Friday with Cole, I'm traveling to London with my Jets show to be out there for Jets Vikings. So I'm not sure if we're going to have a show with Cole this week. It will depend on the time. So stay tuned for that. We'll probably post the picks online so you guys could take a look. I did have, by the way, a 2-in-1 week, as did Cole, if you were following our picks from Friday. So there is the latest in the Jake Asman versus Cole Thompson NFL pick back and forth that we do every week on the show. But just looking at some of the takeaways from this week, I think, honestly, my big takeaway, is anyone good right now in the AFC? Seriously. I thought the Jets, I should know better, but I don't. I thought the Jets would handle their business and beat the Denver Broncos and get to 3-1. And if they had done that, the Buffalo Bills would have the same record that they would have, despite looking great their first 3 games. They got boat raced by the Baltimore Ravens. And the Ravens were 0-2. They looked awful. Now, all of a sudden, they're 2-2, and they look like the best team in the conference. I mean, I know Kansas City's 4-0, but you can't tell me Kansas City has played great so far. They've been handed a couple wins with the help of officiating. Rashee Rice, his status certainly unknown. Could be done for the year. We don't know just yet. No Isaiah Pacheco right now. So the Chiefs are undefeated, but have they played great? You know, the Steelers are 3-1. They lose to the Colts. Joe Flacco's now their quarterback. What's his status going forward? If Anthony Richardson could come back and play, can he come back and play? You know, you look at the conference, and is anyone really good? I mean, I guess Houston's good, but they haven't played great. You know, they barely hung on against an 0-4 Jaguars team. Jacksonville, I guess we know, is not good. They're done. So I'm just like looking at all this, the scores and the standings. Who's any good? You know, the Browns aren't any good. They're 1-3, but I don't think the Raiders are good either yet. They're 2-2. Chargers 2-0. We're riding high. Well, they're up 10-0 on Kansas City. They can't hold on. They're 2-2. So most of the AFC is 2-2 right now, with the exception of Kansas City being, you know, an undefeated 4-0, as we mentioned, Buffalo being 3-1, Jacksonville being winless, but most of the teams in the league are in that 2-2 bunch. There's only one winless team left in the AFC. That's Jacksonville. The entire AFC West is 2-2 besides Kansas City. Houston 3-1, Colts 2-2, Tennessee last night in one of the more grotesque games we'll have in prime time all year. They pick up a win. I mean, is anyone good? You know, we were talking about it with Emmitt, the parity in the league right now. You're really seeing that in the AFC. And then you look at the NFC. I mean, I love what I've seen from the Lions. How could you not? I think the Vikings are good. Are they 4-0 good? Is Sam Darnold at any point going to have some sort of regression? I mean, they very nearly blew that game to Green Bay on Sunday, but a win is a win, and we'll see what they do now in London against the New York Jets. Jordan Love being back for Green Bay is huge, but they're a 2-2 team right now. I think the Lions, to me, if I can only pick one team, I think I like the Lions the most right now. They're 3-1. Goff was incredible last night. They have the playoff pedigree after last year. I think they truly have a home field advantage. You know, we could look at the Commanders and their 3-1 start, and Jane Daniels has been great. Maybe he's going to have a CJ Stroud-like year, but I think a lot is unknown so far. Way more parity, it appears, in the AFC than any of us imagined. And in the NFC, I don't know if we've had enough people really differentiate themselves. That to me is what has really stood out so far when you look at the NFL. You've had some teams look awful, yet you look up, they're 2-2. Yeah, I'll give you a great example, right? Denver couldn't have looked worse, I thought, their first 2 games, especially on offense. Then they destroy Tampa, the Todd Bowles special, and then Tampa goes out there and basically destroys the Eagles. Jalen Hurts has had a turnover in 8 straight games. I just don't know what to make of the league so far. Very week to week. That's how I think you got to look at it, if we're being honest. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Wilton, who's down in Australia, has gifted 5 channel memberships here on the Jake Asman Football Show. Craig, you are the man. Sound the alarms, baby. Let's find out who got some membership. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to the Jake Asman Football Show, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. We talk football multiple times a week, except maybe this week because I'm in London, but don't tell anyone that. Ladies and gentlemen, the following 5 listeners are now Asmaniacs here on the show. Doc Avic, Maximilian, Jason Alicia, Bishop Judas, and Frank West, courtesy of our guy, Craig, who's down in Australia. Thank you very much, Craig. Dakota writes in, Hurts is overrated. Eagles are pretenders. I mean, could they in theory figure it out? I think they could, but I don't love Nick Sirianni right now. I don't love the body language from Jalen Hurts. But I also don't think the Commanders are a great team, but they're 3-1. But if there was ever a year for them to maybe make some noise, maybe it's this year. Maybe they could win the division. We haven't had a repeat division winner in the NFC since 2005. Is it possible the Eagles aren't good, the Cowboys aren't good, and the Commanders, they're the team that takes the step forward? Which, by the way, is probably the nightmare scenario if you're the New York Giants, right? If you're the New York Giants and that happens, you're now looking up at 3 teams, whereas you used to own the Commanders. That was the one team you could beat in your own division. Now you already lost to them this year. And they got their franchise quarterback, and you still have Daniel Jones with no uncertainty on where you're finding the guy after Jones. And I mean, say what you want about the Eagles and the Cowboys. To this point, they're still better than the Giants. I don't think the Cowboys are great, but look what they just did. They beat the Giants. So just a random aside for the Giant fans out there who I know watch this show. It's got to be a little alarming if the Commanders are legit. Then it's like, damn, we're chasing 3 teams in our own division now. But top to bottom, it has been a very, very confusing and wide open NFL so far, especially the AFC, as I talked about just before. Matthew writes in, Jake, lots of sloppy September football in this day and age. With how neglectful teams are now of the preseason, teams don't really get into rhythm around week 5. Yeah, we're certainly going to see that because right now there has been very little separation amongst the elite teams in the league. You know, you could say Kansas City has separated themselves because they're 4-0, and I get it. The eye test tells me they're not as good as their record. Now, they have Mahomes, they have Andy Reid, they have the championship pedigree, but this is why it's so hard to win back-to-back Super Bowls. And they're trying to do something that's never been done, win 3 straight Super Bowls. Durability plays a part. Luck of the draw plays a part. Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco. Yeah, I think Kansas City needs to add another receiver. As good as Mahomes is, Travis Kelce's not the same guy. I know he had a nice game the other day, but consistently, he's not a guy who's, I think, capable of that type of performance. He's 34, turning 35. Father Time's going to catch up to him at that position. So I think they need another weapon. Honestly, maybe it's crazy to say, maybe not. You guys tell me. I think the Ravens are the best team in the AFC. I think they were in a bit of a malaise at the beginning of the year. I think they have righted the ship. They have an impressive win in Dallas. They destroyed the Bills who were rolling. I think the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the AFC. And I know Pittsburgh's got a better record, but I like Baltimore. Now, this will be an interesting week because they're playing the Bengals in Cincinnati. Cincinnati trying to avoid that 0-4 start, desperately needed a win, and they got it done. But right now, the Ravens are playing better than the Bengals are. But it's been confusing, to say the least. It's been sloppy. Ask yourself this if you're watching the Jake Asman football show right now. How many of you out there are still alive in your survivor pools? I'd imagine not many of you. And that's because there's been so many upsets. Teams we think we know, turns out we actually don't know. Imagine that for a concept. We think we know, but we don't know. That's been the NFL so far. I think that's my takeaway from this show. We think we know, but we don't know. Pretty crazy. That makes it fun. That makes it exciting. That also makes it confusing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everyone who took time to watch the Jake Asman football show, recapping week 4 of the NFL. And of course, if you tuned in late, rewind to the beginning of the show. We were joined by Pro Football Hall of Famer, the NFL's all-time leading rusher, the great Emmitt Smith, came on the show to chop it up and talk ball. Of course, I want to thank BetUS for being our presenting sponsor. Check it out, folks. YouTube 150 is that promo code for a 150% sign-up bonus. Thanks for watching, everyone. My name is Jake Asman. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This has been the Jake Asman Football Show. I'll talk to you guys next time. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Tuesday. Have a good one, everybody.